Senator, great to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining us. Can I ask you what President Trump said to the senators today to try and rally support?
Well, he just really made the argument for why this is so important to our economy, that we're on the cusp of really cutting loose and getting growth back up into that 3% range, and that reforming our tax code is essential to that. So it was really about what we can do to help the country, to help middle-income families who are living paycheck to paycheck, and to help our businesses prosper and thrive and grow in a way that will create better-paying jobs and higher wages. It was really about the features, the benefits of the bill, and also just talked about the importance of succeeding, that we need to put some points on the scoreboard, that this will be a good outcome for the American people.
Senator Thune, among the demands of some of your colleagues to move this bill forward is this idea of triggers in the out years that would hike taxes in the event that revenues don't come in where expected. One plausible situation could be revenues declining because of a weak economy. So could we be faced with a situation in which we see tax hikes in the face of a weak economy in the future?
That's not the preferred outcome for sure, Joe. What we're trying to accomplish with this is to create certainty and predictability for businesses to invest and expand and grow. And there are a number of things in the bill: the reduction in rates, of course, the accelerated cost recovery, the immediate and full expensing is something I think that businesses will take full advantage of. But we have members in our caucus who are very concerned about if we don't see what we think are very small, modest amounts of growth in the economy over the course of the next few years, that there be some snapback in tax rates to compensate for that. And we're trying to work with them in a way that provides the certainty, the predictability that our businesses need, but at the same time provides some assurance to those members that there's going to be a measure in place, if you will, that will protect against big deficits in the event that we don't see the growth that we expect. But like I said, I mean, we're talking about 0.4% growth year over year. And I think we can certainly achieve 2.2 to 2.3% growth when we're growing right now, in the last couple of quarters at least, at over 3.
But it is plausible. You said it's not the desired situation, but it is plausible that one of the ways we would get a revenue shortfall is in a weaker economy, and the mechanism in place to deal with that could be higher taxes.
The answer to your question is if the agreement is made with some of our members who need this in order for us to move forward to get to 50 votes, you know, we may have to end up agreeing to something along those lines. But again, you know, we believe that we're going to see that growth, and obviously if we put something like that in place, then we'll cross that bridge when we come to it at the time. But you know, I don't think we're going to have to worry about that, because I think the economy is picking up. I think it's going to generate some forward momentum, and I believe we're going to see the kind of growth from these tax changes and policies that are going to create incentives for people to invest and make America an attractive place to do business.
Senator, what would you rather have, a phase-in of the tax cuts or tax hikes in the future, if necessary, if the revenues aren't flowing and the deficit is going to be increased as a result of this? A revenue trigger here or a tax trigger?
Yeah, I don't like either one of those alternatives, Julia. I don't want to see us phase this in. I think we need to get these changes made and really cut this economy loose. Start unleashing what I think will be a tremendous amount of investment, and I think there are firms that are waiting on the sidelines to do just that. I also think in the long run, it's not in our best interest to have any sort of a mechanism that would create any kind of a tax increase in the out years. But as I said, you know, this is a very delicate balancing act. We have members in our conference. It takes 50 votes to get this done. We can only lose 2, so we're trying to accommodate as many concerns and address those in the best way possible,
right,
without undermining the overall goal, and that is provide certainty with regard to the conditions that are good for economic growth.
As you said, it's a delicate balancing act. Your colleague, Senator Ron Johnson, wants a deeper tax cut for pass-through entities and has indicated that he won't vote for the bill as it's currently written. Is there a fix there when it comes to pass-through?
You know, I think there is, and we're continuing to dialogue with Senator Johnson. We had a number of conversations, many of us did today, with him. And we want to be able to get to where he's comfortable, moving to a yes vote in the end. And we think there are some accommodations that we can make to lessen the perceived gap between pass-throughs and C-corps when it comes to the rate of taxation. But we've done our best in the bill as we crafted this to try and maintain rough parity between business types. And I think we've been pretty effective, frankly, in doing that. But, we've got members who think we can do better, and we're trying to do better by them and to get to a point where we have the 50 votes that are necessary to get it across the finish line.
Senator, what are your constituents saying to you here? Are you receiving pushback, concern from voters that aren't sure that this plan actually is going to be beneficial to them ultimately?
I think in the end, we are getting feedback, of course, from people who are impacted by this in various ways. And, we've had a lot of feedback, of course, from small businesses who are watching carefully what we're doing on pass-through rates. But on the individual side, I think most people, when they understand what this bill does, doubling of the standard deduction, doubling of the child tax credit, lowering of rates, realize that this is going to be a very good thing for them. I mean, a typical family of four with a combined annual income of $73,000 is going to see a $2,200 tax cut, about 60% tax cut over what they're paying today. So people, although when they hear it talked about in a generic sense, perhaps maybe aren't that favorable to it, when they realize the individual benefits that they're going to see as a result of this, I think this is a pretty good idea.
Senator, earlier in the interview, you mentioned, among other things, that passing this bill would put points on the scoreboard for your party. How much is the fact that your party in power hasn't really done much in this first year of the new administration motivating senators to make this happen?
Well, I would take issue with the premise that we haven't done a lot. I mean, there's been a lot done on the regulatory front in the courts, but this is a big item. This is a huge agenda item. Most of us came to Congress, got elected to do big consequential things like this. And I was a young staffer back here in 1986, the last time this happened, and we need to reform our tax code. It is outdated. We need to modernize it. We need to move to a territorial system internationally so we're competitive in the global marketplace. And this is a big ticket item that we need to succeed on, and I think the American people want to see that the majorities that we have here in the Congress and the presidency can make a difference in their daily lives. And I think tax reform does that, because I think you will see, as a result of a more robust growing economy, better paying jobs and wage increases, which a lot of Americans haven't seen now for the better part of a decade.
Senator Mike Rounds said to us earlier today that the president had made it clear in the meeting that failure is not an option. Do you believe that actually senators are afraid now to break with the party line as far as tax reform is concerned, afraid to defy the president on this note, whether or not it's best for voters?
I think that my sense is, and my colleague and I in South Dakota, I think, will probably be in the same place on this, that people are going to vote for this if they think it's in the best interest of the people that they represent. And when you start breaking it down and look at the individual pieces of this, as I just mentioned, some of the features of the bill, I think they come to the conclusion that this is going to be a good thing for the people that they represent. Obviously, it's nice to have a president who's out there pushing it. And, clearly we want to have successes and victories, not only for the president, for the American people, but for the work that we're doing here in the Congress. And I think this is one of those that if we can get this done, we can point to and say this is something that is going to be meaningful in the lives of the American people. This is impactful legislation that will improve the standard of living and the quality of life for all Americans. And I think that's going to be the compelling logic in the end that will convince most members of Congress to be for it.
Senator John Thune of South Dakota, chairman of the Senate Republican Conference, thank you so much.
Thank you.